In the 1980s, the best vehicles you could buy in America were pickup trucks, and many people did exactly that. Trucks were no longer just for farmers, they were for everyone. Because of that, their engines grew bigger over time, tires got wider, and some of them even turned into vehicles powerful enough to challenge the fastest sports cars. In this video, we're gonna look at the fastest American pickup trucks of the 1980s. If you're ready, let's get started. Number 12. 1983 Chevrolet C10 Stepside. When someone says 1983 Chevrolet C10, what comes to mind? Probably an old farm truck sitting in a dusty garage, a rusty tow hitch on the back, and an engine that somehow survived decades of hard work. And honestly, you wouldn't be wrong. Back then, the C10 was built to work, but under the hood, things got a little more interesting. This truck came with a 5.0-liter, 305 cubic inch V8, making around 160 horsepower. Today, that number doesn't sound huge, but back in 1983, for a truck weighing over a ton, that was respectable power. With a 3-speed automatic, it could hit 0 to 60 in about 12.5 seconds. But the C10 wasn't just about numbers. This truck was part of everyday America. It hauled tools, worked on farms, moved families, and became part of people's lives. And looking back now, you could argue that trucks like this laid the foundation for the performance truck era that was coming later on. The engines, the platform, and the culture all started here. This wasn't just a pickup truck, it was the beginning of a tradition. Number 11. 1985 Ford F-150. Back in 1985, the Ford F-150 wasn't just popular, it was everywhere, and there was a reason for that. It did everything pretty well, strong enough, reliable enough, and affordable enough. Power came from Ford's famous 5.0-liter, 302 cubic inch V8, making around 155 horsepower. On paper, it wasn't much different from its rivals, but Ford's Windsor V8 had a reputation for delivering strong low-end torque. When you were hauling equipment or towing something heavy, that mattered. It could go from 0 to 60 in around 12 seconds. But what really made the F-150 special was durability. These trucks just refused to die. Plenty of them went way past 300,000 miles, and some are still on the road today. These weren't just trucks people bought, they were trucks families kept, passed from fathers to sons, generation after generation. The F-Series wasn't just America's best-selling truck, it became part of America's identity. Number 10. 1987 GMC Sierra. Chevy and GMC have always had a funny relationship. Underneath, they were almost the same trucks, same chassis, similar engines. But GMC always tried to feel just a little more premium. The 1987 Sierra was one of the best examples of that idea. Under the hood sat a 5.7-liter, 350 cubic inch V8, producing around 175 horsepower. It had a little more punch than some of its competitors, and could get from 0 to 60 in about 11.5 seconds. Pretty respectable for a truck in the late 80s. But the real story wasn't just the engine. 1987 represented the final polished version of GM's older truck generation before a major redesign arrived. Better suspension tuning, improved cabin quality, and a smoother ride made it feel more refined than many people expected. Whether you were heading to a job site or taking a road trip across the country, the Sierra could do both. And that deep rumble from the 350 V8. Even today, truck fans still know that sound instantly. Number 9. 1984 Dodge Ram D150. The 1984 Dodge Ram D150 wasn't just another pickup truck. It was the beginning of an identity. This was around the time Dodge really started pushing that legendary Ram logo with the bighorn sheep head on the grille. It wasn't just a badge anymore, it was an attitude. Under the hood sat Chrysler's reliable 5.2-liter, 318 cubic inch V8, making around 165 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque. Compared to Ford and Chevy's bigger V8S, it looked a little outgunned on paper, but the 318 had one huge advantage. It just refused to quit. Simple, reliable, and easy to work on. It could hit 0 to 60 in around 11 seconds, which was solid for a truck back then. What really made the D150 special was the people who drove it. Dodge trucks weren't dominating sales in the 80s. Most buyers went straight to Ford or GM, but if you were a Mopar fan, this was your truck. And today, these old Ram models are becoming favorites in restoration communities because they're almost like giant Legos. Easy to tear apart, easy to rebuild, and packed with character. Number 8. 1986 Chevrolet K10. The Chevrolet K10 taught people an important lesson. Two trucks can have the same engine and still be completely different machines. Under the hood sat the famous 5.7-liter, 350 cubic inch V8, making around 175 horsepower. Sounds familiar, right? Same engine as other GM trucks of the era, but this one came with four-wheel drive and a transfer case, giving it more capability and a little extra weight that pushed the 0 to 60 time to around 10.8 seconds. But honestly, nobody bought a K10 for drag races. You bought a K10 because it could go places other trucks simply couldn't. Snowstorm? No problem. Mud roads? It loved them. Construction sites, farms, mountain trails, that was home territory. Back in the 80s, this truck was everywhere in rural America. Farmers, hunters, construction workers, they all trusted the K10. And when you sent all that V8 torque to four wheels, this thing could climb just about anything. Today, clean K10 4x4s are becoming serious collector pieces because trucks this simple and this tough just don't exist anymore. Number 7. 1985 Ford Bronco. The Ford Bronco isn't on this list just because it's a truck. It's here because it became a full-blown American icon. Back in 1985, the Bronco came with Ford's 5.8-liter, 351 cubic inch Windsor 5.8, pushing out around 210 horsepower. That made it one of the strongest engines in Ford's truck lineup at the time. Even with its full-size SUV body, it could still hit 0 to 60 in around 10.5 seconds. And then there was the best part, and the removable top. Take the roof off, roll the windows down, and suddenly you weren't driving a truck anymore. You were driving freedom on four wheels. That was peak 80s America. The Bronco spent years battling Chevy's K5 Blazer for SUV dominance, and fans argued about which one was better non-stop. But today, the Bronco has become much bigger than that. Clean examples of these older models are selling for serious money, and collectors chase them everywhere. And underneath all of it sits that old 351 Windsor 5.8, calm, strong, and carrying decades of American history with it. Number 6. 1987 Chevrolet S10. The Chevrolet S10 changed how America looked at small pickup trucks. Before trucks like this showed up, many people thought a pickup had to be huge. Big V8, giant body, and enough size to take up half the driveway. Then the S10 arrived and said, maybe not. Under the hood sat a 2.8-liter V6, making around 120 horsepower. Doesn't sound crazy today, but because the S10 was lightweight, it could get from 0 to 60 in around 10 seconds. Surprisingly quick for a compact truck in the late 80s. But the real story wasn't speed, it was practicality. You could actually park this thing in the city without needing 3 attempts. Fuel economy was reasonable, maintenance was simple, and despite the smaller size, it still did real truck work. The S10 became a favorite for young drivers and people who needed one vehicle to handle everything. Number 5. 1983 Ford Ranger. When the Ford Ranger first showed up in 1983, America was still figuring out what compact trucks were supposed to be. Nobody really knew where the segment was headed. Ford looked at that uncertainty and basically said, we've got this. Power came from a 2.8-liter Cologne V6 producing around 115 horsepower. It wasn't built to scare sports cars, but it had enough power for hauling, enough torque for everyday work, and enough punch to hit 0 to 60 in around 9.8 seconds, making it one of the quicker compact trucks of its time. The Ranger had tough competition from trucks like the Toyota pickup and Nissan hardbody, but Ford didn't just throw an American badge on it and call it a day. They built something practical, dependable, and easy to live with. And honestly, the DNA of today's Ranger started right here. These first generation trucks are becoming more popular with collectors because they remind people of a time when trucks were simple. No giant screens, no endless technology, just keys, an engine, and work to do. Number 4. 1987 Dodge Dakota. The 1987 Dodge Dakota did something pretty bold. It created a whole new category. It wasn't a compact truck. It wasn't a full-size truck either. Dodge basically looked at both and said, why not build something in the middle? That gave us the first real mid-size pickup truck. Under the hood sat a 3.9-liter V6 making around 125 horsepower, enough to get from 0 to 60 in about 9.5 seconds. That made it surprisingly quick compared to most compact trucks at the time. But what really made the Dakota stand out was its size. It felt practical in a way other trucks didn't. Big enough to haul haul motorcycles, tools, and real cargo, but small enough that finding a parking spot didn't feel like a military operation. People immediately understood the idea. Dodge had stumbled onto something smart, and they kept that formula alive for decades. Today, especially V8 versions of early Dakotas are becoming collector favorites, and it all started with this weird little truck that refused to fit into anybody else's category. Number 3, 1989 Chevrolet S10. 2 years earlier, the S10 showed up on this list with a modest 120 horsepower, but now, same truck, completely different attitude. Chevy dropped in a 4.3 liter, 262 cubic inch V6, and suddenly everything changed. Now we're talking 160 horsepower and 230 pound-feet of torque. Serious numbers for a compact truck in the late 80s. It could hit 0 to 60 in around 8.8 seconds, and at that point, this wasn't just a practical little pickup anymore. This thing actually had some punch. And here's the cool part. This engine mattered way beyond the S10 itself. The 4.3 Vortec helped shape GM's future performance engines. A lot of the ideas and architecture that eventually influenced later V8 development started showing up here. So this little truck was doing more than surprising people at stoplights. It was quietly helping build the future of GM performance. Small truck, big story. Number 2, 1989 Ford F-150. By the end of the 1980s, Ford was starting to get serious about making the F-150 more than just a work truck. This version packed a 5.8 liter, 351 cubic inch Windsor V8, making around 210 horsepower. A number that actually put it in the same neighborhood as some sports cars of the era. 0 to 60 came in around 8.5 seconds, and for a full-size pickup back then, that was impressive. This thing had enough power to move in a hurry, and with an empty bed out back, some owners would tell you the truck felt surprisingly eager off the line. Looking back now, this truck feels like an early preview of what Ford would do later with the SVT Lightning. Big engine, tuned suspension, and performance mixed into a pickup truck. Today, clean original examples are getting harder to find, not just because they're durable, but because trucks this simple barely exist anymore. No giant screens, no endless technology, just a V8, a steering wheel, and a lot of personality. Number 1, 1989 Dodge Shelby Dakota. Now we've reached number 1, and honestly, nobody saw this coming in 1989, because when people heard the name Carroll Shelby, they thought about Mustangs and performance legends. They definitely weren't expecting a Dodge pickup truck, but Shelby and Chrysler teamed up and created something nobody really knew they needed, the Shelby Dakota. Under the hood sat a 5.2 liter, 318 cubic inch V8, producing 175 horsepower. Doesn't sound crazy now, but back then this midsize truck could launch from 0 to 60 in just around 6.8 seconds. For a pickup in 1989, that was genuinely quick. Shelby also gave it upgraded suspension, a sportier exhaust setup, body styling changes, and those iconic black Shelby badges. But the biggest thing wasn't the horsepower. The Shelby Dakota proved something important. Performance trucks could actually work. This came before the GMC 454 SS, before the Cyclone, before the performance truck world exploded. Shelby looked at a Dakota and basically said, I can make this thing fun. And he absolutely did. Only a few thousand were built, and finding a clean original one today isn't easy. Most got modified, driven hard, or simply disappeared. The survivors aren't just rare trucks anymore. They're pieces of American performance history.